South of Midnight, it's a weird one for me. I really want to play it. I really don't want to buy it. I really don't want to give anybody any money for this game because of who helped make this game, Sweet Baby Inc. and some others that are involved. But this seems like a game that I really want, so I might just take a bullet on this one. But I do have some problems to talk about with it and around it. Mostly cultural things. This game seems like it's a PS2 game that's upgraded for modern times, for modern graphics and whatnot. And if you've seen my gaming channel, then you know that I love PS2 games. They're my favorite games. Perfect length, perfect size, perfect mechanics, perfect gameplay, perfect everything to me. I love the vibe of South of Midnight. I love the main character. I love the way she looks. I love the way she acts, the way the vibe is of the whole thing. It's got this really southern United States vibe, kind of swampy, and that's where I grew up, is a swampy southern town in the United States. And I love the banjo and the swamp kind of vibe, and that's what this gives me. I'm probably gonna buy this game, but not for $40, I don't think. I'm not gonna get Game Pass, because it doesn't work on Linux unless I just use it in the browser, which I refuse to do because it's garbage. I might get it for 15 bucks on a sale or something. This is a video from Minimal Effort. I've never seen this guy's channel, but he's talking about South Midnight fails to break 2K players on Steam. Sweet Baby Writer exposed as lunatic. And that's just too bad, man. I wish that Sweet Baby Inc. was not involved. I wish that their non-involvement would make this hit 20,000 players, 30,000 players on Steam, but unfortunately that is not the case.
Alright guys, I know I jumped the gun a couple days ago on the release date of South of Midnight, but the game is officially out in full today, both on Steam and on Game Pass. And of course, we don't know how many people are going to be playing this on Game Pass due to the fact that they do not release those numbers. But we do have Steam numbers, and while that doesn't include the total number of players, it paints a pretty important picture of this game, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the video.
Yeah, also Steam players does not equal sales. Everybody keeps saying this, like, look at this player count, but that, even when they're low, it doesn't mean that those are sales. They give away free codes to a lot of people. I wonder how many of those players on Steam got free codes. And if there's only like 300 to 2,000 players, that's a big percentage of people who just are playing this for free.
But we are seeing a lot of this toxic positivity from the games media, from sites like Kotaku saying South of Midnight, the Kotaku review, the new action platformer on Xbox Game Pass is fantastic despite repetitive combat. Now here's the thing. This talk of repetitive combat, how this game would have been good in 2015, how the game's combat is mid, how it gets boring, how the enemy variety kind of sucks.
Bro, I'm playing Ratchet and Clank right now. I do not care about repetitive combat if everything feels good and the vibe's right. I actually really enjoy repetitive combat if it's done right. But true, all the toxic positivity, that's gotta go. This is not an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, definitely not game. This is more like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. That's worth $15 or $40 on release. I think this game is perfectly priced, and it's too bad. It's really just too bad.
This is all we're hearing. Again, everyone's trying to praise this game for its representation and its diversity and its portrayal of the Black Southern experience, but it forgot to be a video game, which is why we also see articles like this from Aftermath talking about the difficulty options of this game, because apparently this game, if you get tired of the repetitive slog of enemies that you have to fight, and again, I was watching some of the combat in this game, it's not difficult, it's not hard. I would have to turn the difficulty way up just to have an actual, competitive gameplay experience. You can even put a mode in this game where you don't have to fight any of the bosses. You can push a button, kill all the enemies, and move on with your day. Essentially, it is a story-only mode, a journalist mode, if you will, for people who would rather watch a cinematic experience than play an actual video game. This is absolutely pathetic behavior, in my opinion.
I disagree. I'm completely fine with those options. That's fine, as long as they got options for you to just regularly play. Listen, there are console commands on Oblivion and Skyrim and stuff. People use those. This is basically just giving you the option to turn on console command God mode, whatever, without having to type in the console commands. I'm cool with that. That doesn't really change much. I don't get people hating on it for that. With all the tickers and sliders, it doesn't really bother me.
Just watch a movie if you want to watch a movie. But again, this is the audience that they are trying to target this game to. That being said, before we move on this video, go check out MetaPCs. They just revamped their website. The tariffs have not taken effect yet, so you can still get your computer locked in at the price that they have them listed for on the website. But that's not guaranteed for long, so go check them out. Link down below in the description, as well as my code. Use those, save some money, and helps the channel out greatly. So, we are now seeing fellow slop studios like Ninja Theory congratulating Compulsion Games on the launch of South of Midnight. Now, again, another studio that launched their game on Game Pass and had disastrous effects. If you didn't play Hellblade 2, you know, you were probably better off than I was, because I played this game and it was a miserable, boring slog, which is...
Okay, I disagree on that too. I thought it was also a 7 out of 10 game, and it was cheap. I didn't pay full $70 for it. I think I paid like $20 and I paid even less for the first one. So I don't really get that one. I think the review up there, 8.5 out of 10. I think that's a pretty good number for a review on that. Maybe even 7.5 is what I'd probably give it.
Is why there are currently 20 people playing this game on Steam. It peaked at less than 4,000 players not even a full year ago, and nobody is playing this game anymore. Now, yes, it is a single player game. Sure, it is a story-driven game. Sure. But there are more people currently playing Hellblade 1 than 2. That is because 2 was absolutely dreadful. It was miserable to play, the story sucked, the gameplay was even worse, and honestly, it just wasn't as good as the first game. Of course, you also see fellow slop studio Obsidian saying, "Decipher the spiritual world with us." Weaver and Animancer, huge congratulations to our friends at Compulsion Games on the launch of South of Midnight. Again, fellow slop studio that put out Avowed congratulating Compulsion on having their game get destroyed.
I do agree with that one. I agree with that take, that Obsidian is currently a slop gaming company. They make slop. If you have to bombard me with 1 million ads telling me that your game is return to form, it's amazing. 4 million players. Assassin's Creed. If you gotta try that hard to get me to play your game, then it's not worth it to me. Especially $70 for a single player game that's also got microtransactions and boosts and a battle pass and daily quests. No thank you.
On Game Pass and by Sweet Baby Inc., which we'll also talk about in a minute. And of course, this coming from Avowed, a game which is basically dead in the water at this point, a few months after launch. A game that did not live up to all the hype. But it doesn't stop there. The actual lead producer at Compulsion Games saying, "South of Midnight is launching today and I am so proud. Congratulations, Compulsions. I feel truly lucky to have been happy every day coming into work with this wonderful team to craft this meaningful adventure. Hope you will enjoy our game world. Go get them, Hazel." But of course, they're not talking to straight white men, because remember, the community manager of this game hates straight white male gamers. So clearly you're not the target audience, even though this woman herself is white. So I'm not quite sure why they had a white lead producer on a game featuring a black protagonist. That seems a little ass backwards to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't even care. I don't even care about this, actually. Like, it sucks that somebody's gonna be racist against white men. But if the game's good, the game's good. It doesn't matter.
But the funnier thing too is Jen here, the lead producer at Compulsion, actually has a very interesting work history. She has not only worked at Compulsion Games, but Behavior Interactive, you know, a bunch of woke lunatics work there on Dead by Daylight, as well as at Ubisoft, and she was also the co-founder of Misclicks back in 2013. Misclicks being a Dungeons and Dragons table read group that was basically focused on diversity and inclusion of women and non-binary, you know, transgender people in gaming, essentially, back in the original Gamergate 1 days. They started a YouTube channel, got it to about 11,000 subscribers, and then eventually just disbanded because they couldn't get any views, nobody cared, nobody was interested in their crap that they were peddling anymore. So that takes us now to the numbers of South of Midnight that are currently playing this game. The game managed to claw its way up to about 1.4 thousand players. That's it. That's the peak for this game today. Now, this game came out in advanced access a few days ago. It is unlikely, I would say at this point, to hit 2 or 3,000 this weekend. It's possible, but it's unlikely due to the fact that this game has now been in some form or fashion available for 5 or 6 days and couldn't make it to 2,000 players on its launch day. Absolutely miserable behavior. And of course, this article from That Park Place puts it pretty succinctly. Sweet Baby Inc. game South of Midnight flops hard. Another SBI project crashes on launch. Now again, the significance of this is not just the fact that the game is mid, the combat is mid, they created these characters for representation purposes.
From what I've heard from people that I like who have played this game, the game is not mid. It's above mid, just barely. It is not mid. It is pushing good. And good is good enough for me to pay $15 or less for. Narrative over gameplay. Some games you play for the narrative. Not all games have to be just about the gameplay. I love it when games are just about the gameplay, but it doesn't have to be the case every time. Such as the way of classic Tales games, like The Walking Dead, Tales from the Borderlands, and stuff like that. Terrible gameplay. Terrible gameplay. Amazing narratives. And that's what you played those for.
Only, but the fact that Sweet Baby Inc. has had a profound effect on every single title that they have played, whether the games are woke or not, whether the games have been bad or not, every game Sweet Baby Inc. has touched has failed for one reason or another. And this person here that was pointed out by Bandar Hub on Twitter is definitely one of the symptoms of the issue going on in gaming today. This is from Zaire Lanier, one of the writers on South of Midnight. I believe she worked for or with Sweet Baby Inc. to create this story.
More queer characters of color, not just, just a white queer character.
She is about to contradict herself here in a few minutes, maybe a minute. Notice that she's talking about we need more queer characters.
I would like to see more people that look like me. I think audiences have a very vocal minority of people who are very much against inclusion of anything that's not, as we said, like a cis straight white man. But our existences aren't political, they just are. And
I have to pause this right here. She claims that it's a small vocal minority of people who don't want non-straight white men included in video games. Again, I might give her a little bit of grace and say, sure, if you're talking about people who are actually bigoted, people who truly hate anybody based on the color of their skin or their gender, sure, I would say that that's a very, very, very small vocal minority. The problem is, she's not talking about the vocal minority that I'm talking about. She's talking about people like me who just don't want a bunch of agendas crammed into our video games. She lumps everybody who pushes back against Sweet Baby Inc. and this DEI agenda in video games as the quote-unquote vocal minority of bigots.
And I think that more and more people are expecting to see that kind of representation and also expecting it to get broader as time goes on, as opposed to just having that same, white gay guy archetype, or like Ellie in The Last of Us. We're looking for people who, non-binary, intersex, trans, who aren't just white, they look like me and you. And I think that games are starting to delve into that more, but I think it also needs to be intentional and not an afterthought.
And again, I don't know when this interview is from, but I would argue, based on the current trend of games, the way that they've gone the last 4 or 5 years, that she is 100% wrong in this respect. People are not looking for more representation. We're looking for better gameplay and better stories and less agenda-driven messaging.
It can't, if you're writing, like Tori said, it has to be from the beginning. The team should be from that community, not we're wherever in our process, and we should probably bring on a consultant who we may or may not listen to. It should, from the beginning, it should be a priority. And I think audiences are hungry for that kind of thoughtfulness. And I think queer people of color are able to write within their own identity.
This is the best part. These are the so-called anti-racists. Just wait till you hear what she says here about how one race of people can write for another, but not vice versa. Just get a load of this.
White characters of that same identity, but I don't think that white creators can on their own cross that boundary to write a queer person of color, because as people of color, we have to exist within the framework of America's just capitalistic, colonialistic framework, like that's whiteness is the standard. And so like I understand your like culture, but like come to a barbecue at my church or at my house or something.
Notice she says come to a barbecue. For one, I've been to so many barbecues, I've thrown barbecues, all kinds of people there. It's not just like old white redneck dudes. There's black people, there's Mexicans, usually it's more Mexicans than black people. There's a lot of Mexicans in my hometown. And we don't care, we love them. They run the restaurant there in my town. 2 of them, they run 2 restaurants in my town. And we love both of them, even though one of them's kind of garbage. We still go there just out of principle because it's somebody in our town who has their own business. And she says, my church. That is so contradictory to the whole queer thing, the whole gay thing and trans and all of that, all the ideologies that are completely against the church. The church is completely against all of that stuff. Makes no sense. She's just lying.
So if you wonder why this game is utter dog shit, if the story looks cringe to you, if it looks like it's some sort of ham-fisted, forced agenda, it's because it is.
It doesn't really give me that vibes, really. And I've seen the first couple hours of gameplay, and it doesn't give me that vibe. Definitely they used some of it to craft the game, but I think they did a pretty good job of masking it.
And I've said on record, I don't think having a black character or having gay characters in the game means that it has to have some sort of evil agenda behind it. No, you can have those things occur naturally or authentically, and that's not going to ruin the game.
GTA San Andreas, perfect example. Also GTA 4 with the gay character for the DLC Ballad of Gay Tony. One of my favorite games, one of my favorite DLCs of all time, by the way. Lee from The Walking Dead that I mentioned earlier. Miles Morales, even though I didn't really like that Spider-Man game, but I really like Miles Morales in general. Honestly, I wish there were more black characters, more gay characters. But they just don't know how to do them right. They always try and force this agenda and hate on regular white people, and that's who they should try and get to play their games, to try and get them to change their minds, but they can't do that. Because they're just pandering. They don't actually believe any of the stuff that they're saying. They just want money and power. And for you to listen and do what they want you to do. Just buy the game. Don't think about it.
You can even have things that you consider woke in a game, and the game, in spite of those things, can still somehow manage to be good. But games like this, that serve as nothing more than mouthpieces for these agenda-driven ideologues, are never going to succeed anymore because people have woken up to the reality that's like, these people hate you, they hate the general customer base of video games, and they want nothing more than to subvert it. And these people from Sweet Baby Inc. have said their goal is to destroy the video game industry. Their goal is to light it on fire, burn it down, and rebuild it in their image. So this is what we have now with games like South of Midnight, and that's why it's failing. Anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it right there. Let me know what you think about all this, and I will catch you guys on the next one.
I don't think this guy actually played it or watched any of the gameplay, but who knows, maybe he did, and he's just a little bit more extreme about it than I am. Because this one's one that I just don't really care about when it comes to the cultural stuff. It seems fine to me. Unless there's some stuff past the 4-hour point that I just don't know about. And hey, maybe that's true. I'll find out when I buy it in like a month when it's on sale for 15 bucks. And I'm definitely gonna buy it because it just looks like it would be like a PS2 game to me, and I freaking love PS2 games. Catch you on the flip side.